Get ready with me. I've been feeling a strong inner nudge to talk about a particular emotion that I feel like is very hard to sit with and therefore really hard to alchemize and move through. And then that can tend to have some pretty big consequences in our lives. But it's a hard one to talk about, so I've been putting off this video. So even after I record this, I think I'll probably wait a couple days before I post it because I want to make sure that I'm doing the topic justice because it is really important, especially right now. And I'll go into a little bit more about what I mean later. But the emotion that I wanted to talk about is jealousy. So jealousy is a really interesting emotion to me because it's this strange combination of anger and shame. And I think it's largely because of the shame component that it's so hard to sit with. Because it's said that shame is one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult emotion to sit with in the body. The minute that we feel it, we'll want to bypass it and replace it with something else. It's usually some sort of like guard dog emotion that takes its place, like just the anger. Or it could be some other combination of emotions that it takes its place that are a little bit more easy to deal with because we can act on them in ways that feel temporarily good. And I want to get into that, but first I want to highlight something that we already know, that there is no bad emotion. All emotions are is information that our body is sending us. That's actually really important for us to learn about our environment, about our lives, about ourselves, about our relationships. Without each and every emotion, we would have no way to get our lives better aligned with what it is that we really and truly want and need. And so every single emotion serves a very important function, and jealousy is no exception. What jealousy is usually trying to signal to us is the fact that something is meant for us. When I feel jealousy arise in my body, I like to think of it as this internal radar system that has kicked in and that's alerted me to a direction that I know I'm meant to go toward, a direction that is calling out to me in a way that feels like an internal sense of knowing. And yet, because I haven't gone in that direction yet and I'm seeing someone else go in that direction, it brings this feeling of jealousy up in the body. But that emotion is really a gift because it's trying to tell you, hey, this is meant for you. What you're jealous of wouldn't bother you at all if it didn't pertain to something that's actually quite important to you. It's the important to you part that we're supposed to really hone in on. But because jealousy is so hard to sit with, we often don't give ourselves the time or the space that we need to sit with the information that it holds for us. Sitting with and digesting an emotional response in the body is what allows that emotion to alchemize, which just means that it's transformed into something else. It's transformed into alignment, to action steps. It's no longer jealousy, it's now motivation. But because jealousy makes us so uncomfortable, most of us don't sit with it long enough to get the benefit of what it's meant to provide for us. And so because jealousy is so uncomfortable to sit with, and a lot of times what we end up doing is bypassing it, what that effectively does is lock that energetic frequency in our energy body. It locks it in. Rather than allowing the energy to be alchemized and to move through our body, which is what emotions want to do most. They want to stay in motion. They want to move through. Once you've extracted the meaning, the message that they hold, the gifts that they hold, they are meant to move. But when we can't sit with an emotion, it actually gets locked in. When any difficult emotion gets locked in our energy body, our energy becomes fragmented. We know when our energy has become fragmented when we start to be able to recognize, wow, I'm really acting in ways that are out of alignment for me. But energy fragmentation is what happens when our body is forced to lock in an emotion that we won't allow to move through. In the case of jealousy, when our energy becomes fragmented and we start to behave out of character for who we are at our truest selves, the way that this can often look is withholding support for the person that we're jealous of, gossiping about that person. We can be really dismissive. We can start to really act in ways that attempt to minimize what that person is doing. Sometimes we can go so far as to form factions and coalitions that are sort of meant to block access to that person. It's almost as though because we haven't really sat with the information that the jealousy holds, we're now essentially acting in ways that reflect this underlying desire to punish the other person for holding the frequency that we really would like ourselves to be able to hold. But we haven't really let ourselves be aware of that yet and alchemize that truth yet. So the way that it's showing up is all of these things that we do that's actually really out of character for who we are at our essence. And all of this is so unfortunate for a variety of reasons. Unfortunate is too small of a word. It's damaging. It's damaging to our own paths because we aren't really doing the work to extract the meaning that that emotion was trying to communicate to us when it arose in our bodies to begin with. So now we're not any closer to our path. But the reason I say it's unfortunate is because all that really happened is that we observed someone else's light and it made us uncomfortable. And so we essentially try to seek out ways to put out that person's light rather than sitting with the information that our body's telling us and trying to identify ways that we might be able to align with the frequency that triggered the emotional response to begin with. Because remember, that thing that you're jealous of is potentially meant for you. So you're observing a frequency that you're being invited to find ways to align with, not to align against, energetically speaking. But also, it's so crazy when you really think about it, the act of minimizing someone else's light, because all of our internal flame is God. It is the flame of source that lives in us. It is our Holy Spirit at work. So when we see someone else's light shining, lit in ways that make us jealous, and then we take actions, conscious or unconscious, to try and dim that light, to put out that light, we're essentially trying to minimize the light of God. Taken a step further, we're essentially co-conspiring with energy that seeks to minimize God's light. This is why energy fragmentation is so dangerous. And it's why it's so important to continue to do the work of sitting with emotions that arise in our body and allowing ourselves to extract meaning from them. That's the process of alchemy, so that then those emotions can move, so that we don't end up creating a permanent home for vibrational frequencies that don't really belong in our energy body, that will actually end up sabotaging our ability to align with the frequency that our radar originally brought our attention to begin with. The whole process is very counterproductive, but also on a grand level, it's damaging to the bigger goal that so many of us in our highest selves are so passionately committed to, which is trying to bring more light into the world, trying to encourage more light to spread in the world, trying to anchor more and more Christ consciousness into the world. All of these things that I've been talking about sabotage that. And I know that's not the intent at all. It's not like anyone saying, I am seeking to minimize God's light in the world. That's not at all what's happening. What we're doing is actually just very unconscious. We're acting in ways that aren't anchored in our conscious knowing, and that therefore are extremely out of alignment with who we are at our core. But there's also a scarcity component to all of this, because it's sort of like, at some level, the reason why this is happening is because we feel as though when we see someone else shining their light in some way, that it means there's less room for us to shine ours. But in reality, the truth is we need all the light we can get our hands on. There's no scarcity when it comes to this topic. Just because one person is shining their light in a particular way that you would also like to be embodying does not mean that there's not room for you. It actually means, hey, jump in with both feet. We need all hands on deck. Please do shine your light in this way. We all need your light. And so what do we do instead? We can't really stop engaging in harmful behaviors, self-sabotaging behaviors, until we shed the light of awareness on them. Once we're aware of them, we can then catch ourselves in the moment. We can then start to really take steps to break ourselves of those habits and replace those habits with new ones that actually do take us into better alignment with who it is we want to be. I feel like there needs to be an emphasis on grace and compassion inwardly, acknowledgement of the fact that we're all human beings and we're all learning and growing all the time, and that this is simply part of that process. I'm not at all trying to come at this from a place of superiority. I have jealousy too. I also don't like to sit with jealousy. I have my own work to do, just like we all do. I think that fact in and of itself is a little bit of why it's been on my mind at all. And so please know that anytime I talk about topics like these, I'm not trying to make it sound like these aren't things that I struggle with too. We are all on this human journey together. We're all learning together all the time, and we're learning from each other all the time. From the depths of my heart, I want to see more and more people lit up from the inside, really aligned with their truest calling, their truest passion, because we need it. We need it right now. We need all of it. We need people on fire with the things that make them passionate, because that's what's going to heal our world, our planet, our global human community. We need all the light we can get our hands on. I hope at some level this video was helpful. Take the very best care, and I'll come back again soon. Bye.